So the every innovations, they have a paradox, right? What is the paradox means? Okay, the Alibaba, they have the innovations, but innovation sometimes they have two different meanings. One is creative destructions. The second is destructive creations. Okay. What is creative destructions? Creative destruction means that the creations revolutionize the economic structures from within, incessantly destroy the old one. Okay, incessantly creating a new one. Okay. Okay. So this is we call the creative destructions. Okay. For example, like the steam engines versus combustion engines. Okay, the combustion engines, because they have a lot of the advantages. Okay, because of technology improvements, right? So they eventually replaced all steam engines. Also, the digital camera now it wiped out the film camera. I would say largely wipe out the film camera. Okay, I know someone still prefer the film camera. Okay, but digital camera largely replaced the film camera. Okay, it creates more advantages than disadvantages. So that's why we call it as a creative destructions. Okay. The second one is destruction creations. Okay, what is destruction creations? It is innovations that are beneficial to few and harmful to the society. Harmful to the society. Okay. And China is a socialist state, right? Socialist states means they want the common goods, right? Everyone they can have a better life. Not only a handful of the small few richest men. Okay. So Alibaba particularly very fully aware about how to benefit the most, rather to benefit only a few. Okay. Recently, Alibaba is in trouble, as you know, right? And because it was being targeted by Chinese government, because the platform economy they have the monopoly nature. Okay. The platform economy they have a monopoly nature. Okay, they have a monopoly nature. Even though Alibaba has already do a lot of the good things, okay, but still they have a monopoly natures. Okay, it only benefit the firms. Other players is difficult to survive. It also the case. You can see in America, they only have a few platforms existed. For example, like Amazon. Even in Indonesia, you only have a few e-platform existed, like the Gojek. Okay, so you can see the platform economy. They have the monopoly natures. It destroyed a lot of the small firms. Okay, or small vendors on the streets. It destroyed a lot of the supermarkets because of once the people found it is easier and much cheaper to buy over the internet, they were switching to buy that. Okay, so it caused a lot of the damages to the real society as well. We have to admit that. Okay, but Alibaba is very aware about that, but still being targeted by the Chinese government recently. Okay, and also once it is the e-platforms is built, sometimes we are very worried they may create some like over consumerism oriented industry innovations. Okay, and you will find the people are overspending, over consumerisms. Okay, it creates a waste rather than savings. Okay, for the resources for the future generations. Okay, and also unregulated financial innovations. Okay. Alibaba's innovations, a lot of innovations is created when they develop their businesses. When they develop their businesses, Alibaba first built up its businesses as a China Yellow Page, and then found it's difficult to reach both sides, okay, through the Yellow Pages. So it became the e-Yellow Pages. on the website. Okay, e-yellow pages on the website. The e-yellow pages on the website, they gradually become e-platform. But the e-platform, you have to sort it out the transaction problem, right? So they create the secure third-party transactions. And also, they are also thinking about how you deliver the goods. Okay, so they also created internal competition markets. Okay, you know, in Alibaba it's quite interesting. When I choose, I buy some goods, I can select which deliver companies, okay, I want. Okay, in the past. Okay, so that is something the users, you can decide which deliver company you want. Actually, it creates internal competitions. It's internal competition simulations to the delivery companies. Okay, so you know that they are all innovations. Once they encounter problem, they have innovations. Okay, one by one. So therefore, you can see Alibaba now they have a lot of the different services. Those services actually is their innovations. Okay, once they encounter problems, they have to have their innovations to help their customers to overcome the difficulties. But another big problem is that Alibaba, it gradually become a highly monopolized companies. Okay, once there is unregulated financial innovations, it become a giant dinosaurs. Okay, giant dinosaurs. Okay, in the Chinese economy. I don't know if it is true or not. Okay, so even though you have done something very positive in the past, you always should be very careful to become a monopolized companies. And once you become monopolized, you become the one you try to overthrow before. Okay, and also they may have some addictive innovations, right? The destruction equations. Okay, once we try to have innovations, okay, the disruptive innovation, we create a lot of the addictive innovations to the customers, right? It is no good for the future generations, particularly the e-smokings. Okay, I think it is addictive innovations. It's not good for the general people, general public, or also not good for the society as well. Okay, now I would like to use the smiling curves to explain it. Okay, also a final reminders to the Indonesians. Okay, you know that in the 1970s, okay, it is something like that. Okay, it is something like a smiling curves. The productions, they have the least value added, while the R&D and the services, they have a higher value added. But the things become worse. Okay, even after the year 2000s, the R&D, design, marketing, and services, they have a much higher value added compared to the productions value added. Okay, so this is the case. But you know that, as I mentioned, sometimes there is difficulties for Taiwanese firms because Taiwan, we are the latecomers in the international business competition. So therefore, yes, we are very good in productions. But once we are trying to go into R&D, we have a lot of difficulties. And there are a lot of R&D and the patent fortress for the latecomers. For example, like the patent mine. Okay, you know that there are some Taiwanese successful firms like the BIA or such as HTC. Okay, they used to be a very successful firms, but they lost their patent suit in the United States. Okay, so they become the even worse performer compared to the pure manufacturers in Taiwan. Also for the marketing, when we try to create our own brands, there is also difficulties. Because if you want to create your brand, the logistics, you tend to have your big the domestic country size. But Taiwan, because we don't have the big domestic markets, even though Taiwanese famous brand, they are unrecognized, okay, internationally. Okay, when we try to go out of our borders, when we try to set up our brand name in the United States, but you know, the marketing is a country-specific advantages, okay, country-specific capability. They are country-born capability, okay. Once you are good in Taiwan, you move to other different countries, they may not be equally successful, okay. So that is the problems for Taiwanese firms. So eventually in Taiwan, there is a very interesting phenomenon. That is the production companies sometimes have a better the value added compared to others, because the Westerner, they are gradually give up their productions. Some production firms like the Foxconn or like the TSMC, they become the centers or the production monopoly or oligopoly in the world. So therefore, their value added increased. Okay, so there is something we call it an inverted smiling curve over the Taiwan. So that is particularly interesting phenomenon, okay, for Taiwanese firms. Okay, why I like to mention that? It is because of in Indonesia, a lot of company, international company, when they were in Indonesia, they are thinking to using Indonesian level abundant resources. So therefore, the productions may be the main reason for a lot of the international firms to transfer their facilities to Indonesia, right? So in the future, Indonesia are more likely to play a more important role in the production parts, particularly the labor-intensive productions. Okay, but you have to be fully aware. Once your competitions are based on the resources, particularly human power, manpower resources, you have to thinking about that. Okay, a lot of the advanced production facilities, countries like Taiwan, we are already armed with a lot of the cutting-edge technologies. So therefore, you are not only have to compete in design and in the marketing, but also competing with the firms already armed with the modern technologies. That is increasingly difficult to survive in the future. Okay, finally, in my conclusions, we have to really thinking about the new trends on global supply chain before the coronavirus. Okay, even before the coronavirus, we already have the so-called offshore productions to the nearshore productions, sometimes to the reshore productions. That is the traditional offshore productions. They close in a very highly centralized production site, then re-export to the rest of the world. This kind of formats, okay, might be changed. Okay, so now localizations in their supply chain might be the coming trend. Localizations. Once there is a localization in the local supply chains, then for countries like Indonesia, they might have the opportunity to be able to take up a lot of the originally they are imported the supplier materials, suppliers goods. Okay, so localization is necessary. But however, some companies, they may already are industry 4.0 firms in their home countries. Once they are already investing in Indonesia, they are easy to transfer their technologies from the home country to Indonesia. So therefore, the local suppliers, they have to compete with those localized and the industry 4.0 technology foreign suppliers. Okay, that is something you may encounter in the future. Okay, and the second is the impacts and the paradigm shift issues. Okay, as I said, the decentralizations. Okay, the supply chain has to be decentralized. You should have more multiple suppliers, more supplier alternatives. So that means a lot of the firms, they can gain the access for the first time to be able to work with those big multinationals. So you are the first time ever to have the chance to be incorporated, to be inclusive in those supply chains. Okay, you should grasp the opportunity to do so. Okay, and also they should have the safety stocks rather than the just-in-time stocks. Okay, no inventory stocks. Okay, safety stocks is much more important nowadays. Particularly, you see there is a rampant shortages in the global supply chain nowadays. The safety stocks is much more important. And as I said, multiple suppliers is coupled with the decentralization issues. And finally, we should really thinking about the Indonesian positions in the global value supply chain. It is the developing the localized supply chain. Okay, Indonesia was very successfully using the trade policies in terms of the wood, timbers industries, from the wood and the timber industries, and then converted to the furniture industries. So you already have some kind of the localized supply chain already thriving in Indonesia. And also stainless, the steel industries is also already have the sign to be gradually have a localized supply chain in Indonesia. Okay, so I think that is a very successful developing the trend for Indonesia. And e-platform is also thriving. As I said, when I was in Indonesia, I used Gojek as well. Okay, but this kind of e-platform such as Alibaba, I will see it's really help the SME to overcome the difficulties. And the e-platform can be inclusive and help the SMEs to overcome digitalization difficulties. And I think the Indonesian government should have a much more clear policy towards the e-platform, and you should try to foster, and also maybe can work with the Alibaba experiences to develop your e-platform. I think that will be good news for Indonesian SMEs. Thank you for listening.